It never happens at a good time. The pipe bursts at midnight. The heater quits on the coldest night. Suddenly, you're overwhelmed. That's when HomeServe is here. For $4.99 a month, you're never alone. Just call their 24/7 hotline and a local pro is on the way. Trusted by millions, HomeServe delivers peace of mind when you need it most. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
Why do you want to be here? Why do you love space? Why do you love being a part of history?
We're going back to the frickin' moon, that's why.
Oh yeah, look at my life, hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Hey now.
Hey now. Oh, I love that kid. That's great. Good on CNN for putting a child on television live and asking a stupid question. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9 and a happy Easter to you. Today is Easter Monday, and I know there's a lot of people that are not working today, but there are some that are working. So I'm putting out a pod today because I think there's a couple of things that I need to get caught up on here on Scott Fox After 9. Friday was the listener DMs episode. That was great. I got some real good feedback from people on how they see the housing market going. I'm not going to read you the DMs, but I'll tell you the general consensus is there's a lot of people that are not thinking right now is a good time to buy. They think there's going to be a better time coming soon. So it remains to be seen, but either way, I love the interaction. You can slide into my DMs anytime at Scott Fox On Air. Today on the pod, we're going to talk about the Artemis II mission. Today is the day that they do the lunar flyby. So that's coming up. Also, one of the things that I want to do here is I want to try and give you, similar to how I did after Pierre Poilievre did his Joe Rogan interview, I want to give you a Coles Notes version of his interview on the Diary of a CEO podcast. He was on there, and this was one of the best interviews I think I've ever seen Pierre Poilievre do, because he really opened up, and you got to know a lot more about how he thinks and what makes him tick. We also learned what keeps him up at night. We learned about his family dynamic, all that and more in the Diary of a CEO podcast that he was on late last week. But that, again, is another long one. I know that not everybody has got time to sit and watch or listen to the whole thing. So I've got a curated collection of clips that I think you should hear, and then you'll be basically completely caught up on that interview that Pierre Poilievre did. So give me about half an hour to 40 minutes, and I'm going to give you a lot of content right here on Scott Fox After 9. To end today's pod, I'm also going to do a couple of counter narratives. That's one of the things that I like to do here on the pod. You get the story that you get from the mainstream media. But in a lot of cases, the media isn't necessarily informing you of the news. They're narrating a narrative. And there's two narratives out there. Number one, this weekend, they floated the theory that there's 10 more conservatives ready to cross the floor to the liberals. Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that narrative. The other one being that a lot of Canadians apparently want to join the European Union. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? I thought we were protecting our sovereignty, but I guess not. Canadians are willing to sell it out, just not to the Americans. So I'm going to give you a counter narrative on a couple of things, and I'll get to that before we wrap things up today. To get things started, let's talk about what's going to happen. Today, Artemis II makes its flyby the moon. I think that's amazing. I think this is an incredible accomplishment, and I know that not everybody agrees. I'm seeing a lot of skepticism online about why they're doing certain things the way they are, why it's taking so long to get to the moon, and I'm not here to apologize for NASA or put words in their mouth. I'm just going to give you what's coming out of NASA so that you're caught up before these astronauts do that loop around the moon. Over the weekend, astronaut Victor Glover, who is part of the crew, gave a really incredible statement. It was a Q&A with some folks on Earth, and when he talked about Easter Sunday and he talked about humanity, I thought this was a really incredible message. Listen to this.
I'm glad you brought that up, though. I think these observances are important, and as we are so far from Earth and looking back at, the beauty of creation, I think for me, one of the really important personal perspectives that I have up here is I can really see Earth as one thing. And, when I read the Bible and I look at all of the amazing things that were done for us who were created, it's you have this amazing place, this spaceship. You guys are talking to us because we're in a spaceship really far from Earth, but you're on a spaceship called Earth that was created to give us a place to live in the universe, in the cosmos. I think maybe the distance we are from you makes you think what we're doing is special, but we're the same distance from you. And I'm trying to tell you, just trust me, you are special. In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together. I think as we go into Easter Sunday, thinking about, all the cultures all around the world, whether you celebrate it or not, whether you believe in God or not, this is an opportunity for us to remember where we are, who we are, and that we are the same thing and that we got to get through this together.
Very well said by astronaut Victor Glover. It's weird when you think about it like that. We're all praising them because they're on a spaceship, traveling far away from Earth. Well, they're the same distance from us as we are from them, and to them, we're all on a ship. Now, the ship is called Earth, but we're sailing through the universe at the exact same time, just in a different kind of vessel. Real interesting perspective there from a NASA astronaut who is not afraid to share his spirituality, and I like that a lot. The Canadian on board is Jeremy Hansen, and he is certainly thinking about Canada while he is up there en route to the moon.
Just really great to spend some time with my fellow Canadians from way out here. We're, if I do some quick math in my head, we're around 300,000 kilometers from home right now. It's an extraordinary journey, and sharing this journey with Canadians is incredibly meaningful for me, and it's so important that this generation and the next generation see themselves represented in this mission as these four humans and our incredible team from around the world head out on this journey around the moon. And just remember, Canada's future in space is bright because of all of you. Wishing you all the best. Thanks for joining us here on Integrity. Have a great one.
Merci beaucoup, Jérémy.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. I love that. I'm also fascinated by the fact that he can be several 100,000 kilometers from Earth and get reception like that. The fact that they can transmit HD audio and video from that far away makes me again wonder why the hell I cannot get Wi-Fi in my garage or at the edge of my backyard. And here they are having a great video chat in real time from several 100,000 kilometers from Earth. Unbelievable. Now, the way it's going to work today is they're making it a bigger deal than we initially thought. Netflix has jumped in and said they're going to stream the NASA TV live feed. So if you have Netflix, and I have to think a lot of people do, you can watch this afternoon. A little after 2 o'clock is when they're going to be doing their lunar flyby. That's going to last about 4 hours. 6:47 is when we're going to lose contact with the Orion spacecraft. That's when it's completely behind the moon and there's no line of sight, no way to get the signal back to Earth. They're going to go dark for about 40 minutes. When they come back on board around 7:05 p.m., these are all Eastern times, by the way, around 7:05 is when they're going to be the closest to the surface of the moon, about 4,000 miles. Then they carry on, they do their little slingshot back around, and bam, they're on their way back to Earth, and I believe they're going to arrive late Thursday night or early Friday morning. Incredible. Quite the accomplishment for the folks over at NASA. Real happy to see this going on. I'm into it. I've been watching this all weekend, and I think it's awesome. So good luck and Godspeed to the crew. Here's hoping this is an incredible journey and that you come back with some amazing stories. And here's hoping that this one is legit, because I know there's a lot of people who still don't believe we went the first time. So we'll see. Today, by the way, they are going to fly by some of the landing zones for previous Apollo missions. So who knows? If you zoom in, maybe you'll see some old NASA gear on the surface of the moon. I'm wondering if people see that, will they believe that the original moon landings happened? Or is this all going to be part of the conspiracy? I don't know, and I really don't know what to believe either when it comes to the original moon landing, quote unquote, or landings. So I'm excited about this one. It's never happened in my lifetime, and I think this is great. But friends, I'm going to move on. I promised you in this episode I would give you a Cole's Notes version of Pierre Poilievre appearing on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I thought this was the best interview Pierre has done, and we learned a lot about him and the many layers to him. him. So I've got a curated collection of clips that I think you should hear. And by the time you're done this episode, you're going to be completely caught up on all the good stuff that you might have missed if you did not see this Pierre Poilievre interview.
Okay, so this is the total amount of land in Canada.
Yes.
Where homes could be built. And actually, this is quite reflective, I think, of much of the Western world, even the UK. And this is a penny.
Yes.
Do you understand this demonstration?
Yes, I think what you're trying to say is that this is about how much land we live on.
Yes.
So Canada is a great example of this because we have 10 times as much land per person as the second closest G7 country. And yet we have the fewest homes per capita to live in. And why is that? It's because that the vast majority of the cost that goes into building a new home is not land, labor, or lumber. It's government. It's government taxes, fees, charges, bureaucracy, lobbyists, consultants. So if you think of this home here in Canada, when you buy this house, more of the money for your purchase would go to bureaucrats in office buildings than to the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers who actually build the home.
Why? How?
Because the bureaucracy has grown like any organism in nature, which seeks to survive and multiply. They give us the second slowest building permits of any country in the OECD. They charge enormous development taxes, which started out just to pay for plumbing and roads for the related housing, but now have grown into just a huge cash cow for local governments because sales taxes still apply on most new homes. And all of that gets sponged up by government and means that we have extremely expensive housing. In fact, we are the most expensive in the G7, even though it should be dirt cheap to own a home in Canada because we have the most dirt to build on. And my goal is to remove all of that bureaucracy, have the fastest permits in the world, and make it tax-free to build homes so that everyone can afford one.
Real interesting perspective there from Pierre Poilievre, trying to explain why trying to get homes built in Canada is such a daunting task. And it is. Let's be honest. There's not a lot of homes being built because, well, it's a very expensive endeavor. Do you think he can do it? Do you think that if he got elected prime minister, he could be the one to say, we're not doing this anymore? All of these fees and all of these taxes that we're paying to government, scrap it. Build the home. And if it costs $120,000 to build it and you want to sell it for, say, $160,000, okay, that's a pretty good profit for you. It's an affordable home for somebody else. But what about the government's cut? Do they actually need all of those development charges, or are municipalities just charging way too much? Should we be charging sales tax at all? We're in a bit of a holiday right now, 1 year with no HST on the purchase of a new construction home. Maybe there shouldn't be tax on that at all. I maintain that there's certain things in life that we need. Food and shelter are the two main ones, and those are two things that I don't think government should tax.
There's a quite significant probability that you could be Canada's next leader. And for you to achieve all those things you've just described, you'll need to have, productive relationship with the United States.
Right.
Trump, if all follows the law, won't be able to be elected, so it'll probably be a different leader by the time that you were in power. Although I know that, there could be a vote of no confidence, which means that you could get into power earlier. Your relationship with Trump, good, bad, indifferent?
I've never met him.
Never met him, spoken to him?
I've never spoken to him. No, I don't have. No, I made the decision that we have one prime minister at a time. And because we are negotiating a trade deal, or it's more like a review of an existing deal, I don't want our side as Canadians to be divided, even though I obviously disagree with my prime minister on a whole range of policy issues. I don't want to undermine in any way the Canadian side of the bargaining table. I would only do that kind of conversation with a teamwork with the current government. But what I've said is that our approach vis-a-vis Trump should be to focus on what we can control. So why not focus on what we can do at home? Unlock our resources, build up a strategic reserve of minerals that are important to our American friends, but also to our other allies. Clear the way to export more goods to overseas markets, build alliances with the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, to diversify and become more self-sufficient.
You keep using this word unlock.
Yes.
And clear the way.
Yes.
What are you referring to when you say clear the way and unlock?
Removing bureaucratic obstacles. The resources we have are massively profitable for the private sector to mine, refine, store, and ship, as long as they can get the permits and the low enough taxes to do it. So we need to remove those obstacles so that it now becomes possible for private investment, not subsidized by government, no handouts for business, but private investment to unlock and unblock those resources.
All right, more fine words from Pierre Poilievre talking about what needs to get done. He is part of his plan is to try and convince Canadians that a major obstacle that we face here is government itself. They're in the way. They're blocking projects, and the projects that they do allow, they're very slow to issue permits for, and they charge a fortune to do it. I think that if Pierre Poilievre is elected, that is probably the first thing he's going to do, is he's going to try and get government out of the way. He talked about that on the Joe Rogan podcast as well. He wants government completely out of people's lives. He wants government to do 4 or 5 things really, really well, and then get out of people's lives and get out of their way and let business create jobs. Let people create communities. I think it's a solid plan. I just don't know if he'll ever get the opportunity to do it. Either way, good comments there from Pierre Poilievre about government being part of the problem. Now let's switch topics or go back to the one that was the original topic in that question, the relationship between Canada and the United States.
What's changed?
For Canada, it's that we want to maintain and ensure that we can make our own decisions without relying on the Americans.
Because the Americans have expressed that they are maybe not going to be as collaborative and friendly.
And we want to be able to decide for ourselves. We want to be masters in our own home. In Quebec, they say maître chez nous. And so if we want to control our own destiny and territory, we have to be able to protect ourselves. It has been very good for Canada to be next door to the biggest military power the world has ever seen and have friendly relations that go back to the early 1800s before we were even a country. We had largely friendly relations with this enormous power. But what has become clear is that we cannot simply rely on the Americans to protect us. We have to be able to protect ourselves, and that requires a massive military buildup for a country of our size. The second biggest country anywhere in the world. We have the longest oceanic coastline, even longer than Russia. So that takes money, and it takes a buildup like we've never seen, and that's what we as Canadians agree has to happen now.
This is in part because of Trump.
In part, yes.
Because Trump threw the election and then thereafter said that he was going to make Canada an American state.
Which is never going to happen.
Yeah, glad to hear Pierre say that. At every opportunity, Canada will never be the 51st state. Okay, good. Hey, what Pierre is talking about there is something similar to what the Prime Minister is talking about. We have got to defend ourselves. We've got to invest in our military. But the cost on this is staggering. We just got to our 2% of GDP NATO commitment. Now it has to go up to 5%. To spend that kind of money in the situation Canada finds itself in, there's a lot of people who think the Liberals are going to need to raise taxes. They're just going to have to. A lot of people foresee in the near future a substantial increase to the HST because the government just can't hit that 5% without bringing in a lot more money. And raising taxes is the obvious one. And well, we all know they're not going to cut spending. They've been telling us that for years, and it just hasn't happened yet. I think Pierre's got a slightly different approach. I don't for a second think that he is going to raise taxes. I believe that taxes will stay low if Pierre Poilievre were to be elected prime minister. But that's going to mean, though, substantial cuts somewhere else. If we are going to go all in, and the Liberals and Conservatives agree, we need to build up our military so that we don't have to be reliant on the U.S. and we can defend ourselves. It's a major investment, and it's going to be years before it's ready. How are we going to raise that money? Is it all going to come from cuts? Or are we going to have to raise taxes? And what about the possibility that we just figure it out with the Americans and let them continue defending us? Is there some sort of a fee we can pay for security and just get them to do it? Would that be cheaper in the long run? I don't know. Something to think about, though, because at some point, somebody's got to look at the dollars and cents and come to Canadians with a common sense proposal here that says, hey, if we have to spend, $100 billion a year on defense, here's where the money is going to come from because we cannot go further into debt.
Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Here's more of Pierre Poilievre. This is him talking about immigration.
Subjective immigration seems to be a bit of a winning formula for political leaders. If I think about the UK, what Trump said about being invaded by rapists and murderers from the southern border, do you feel that it's a sort of a weaponized, divisive tool for people to get elected, complaining about the brown people or foreigners?
I'll just give you the Canadian experience. So for roughly 200 years, we had the most successful immigration system in the world, by far. In fact, other countries, both Republicans and Democrats in the United States used to say we need to study the Canadian system because it has been so successful. We had a point system that measured whether someone would be a good fit for our labor market, whether they would integrate well into our system. And overwhelmingly, people integrated, intermarried. My wife is a refugee from Venezuela. That is not an uncommon story in Canada. What we encountered was a very sudden and inexplicable increase in the numbers in the period from 2021 to 2024 that was strictly out of line with our ability to absorb people into housing, healthcare, and jobs. And this upset the social peace on immigration that we had had for 2 centuries leading up to it. And now everyone across the political spectrum agrees that it went too far, too fast. And the approach that we're taking is that we have to make it a lawful system. It has to follow the rules. People have to come in legally in numbers that we can absorb and ultimately integrate into jobs, society, and our way of life. Population cannot grow faster than the housing stock, or you'll run out of places to live. It can't grow faster than the number of jobs, or you'll run out of paychecks for people. And so we need a controlled, orderly system that's both compassionate and common sense.
And I think that's the right answer. I think by and large, that's where the vast majority of Canadians are. It was too much, too quick. Whatever the reason for it was that Justin Trudeau and many left-leaning governments around the world, including America, the UK, and many other countries, the reason they blew the doors open and let as many people come as quickly as possible, we may never know the real reason. But we do know it's got to stop, and we do know that we've got to get rid of some people. There's some people here that shouldn't be here, and it's costing the taxpayers way too much money. I think what I've played here from Pierre Poilievre so far has been really good on policy, but I think generally speaking, most people have heard Pierre talk about all of those topics going back to the last election or possibly sooner. Let's do a little bit more on a personal level when it comes to Pierre Poilievre. And I think that this is part of the reason that the Diary of a CEO podcast with Pierre Poilievre is as popular as it has been, because Pierre does talk about sides of him that we don't often hear about, and you're certainly not going to hear about from the mainstream media.
Marlene and Donald?
That's right.
So Marlene's your adopted mother, Donald's your adopted father. They divorced when you're 12 years old?
Yes, it would be around that time. I was in grade 5.
Very difficult time for parents to divorce. Very difficult time. I remember that period of life very, very clearly, because I remember one day my parents coming to me and telling me that they didn't love each other anymore and that they were going to get a divorce. They didn't.
Okay.
But I remember which, I think did enough damage. But it was around that age. And I remember where I was stood in the house. I remember what I was wearing when they said that to me, because it's earth shattering.
It is, actually.
I can't unforget it. It was traumatizing.
Well, my dad told me, and he wanted to tell me alone. So we got into the car. He said he wanted to take me for a drive, and we drove to the local corner store, and we parked in the car, and he told me that there. But it is very traumatizing, and but at the same time, like, they were very, very good parents. So I don't judge them for how they ended up apart. We were very blessed. They gave me a great start in life. Even though they weren't together, they loved us very much, and they gave us all they could.
And Donald would eventually come out as gay.
That's right.
one would assume that he was dealing with the conflict of feelings.
Yes.
For much of the time.
He had been raised in a very devoutly French Catholic household, and that's why we have a French name. And before he got married, he'd even considered going into the priesthood, and he was a very devoutly Catholic person. He genuinely loved my mother, but obviously he wasn't programmed that way. You know, he has a wonderful partner, and we're friends with, very close with him and his partner, Ross, right now.
Do you see how that's changed you as a man? As you've grown up, whether it's your perspective on what love and romance is or anything else?
I think that if everything just been, white picket fences and, totally predictable and then I wouldn't be the kind of person I am today. I think it's also, it's like you. Would you have been as successful as you are if you had a very easy childhood? I doubt it. I bet all the hardships that you had and the twists and turns that took you from Botswana to the United Kingdom and then onward probably gave you some superpower. And so this, I think it gave me the chance to understand that you don't judge people, you love them for who they are.
I'm going to leave it there. I'm not giving you the whole Diary of a CEO podcast. I'm just giving you a curated collection of clips that I think you should hear. And I thought it was important to hear about that. How Pierre Poilievre was raised. He was adopted. His adopted parents divorced when he was 12 years old. His adoptive father came out as gay. That's a story that I don't know if a lot of people fully knew. There was rumors about that, and it wasn't a secret, but it never really got talked about during the campaign. Pierre's done that conversation when the parents sit down and tell the kid, we're divorcing. Pierre grew up in a split household. Pierre came from a very humble beginning. And part of the reason that I like him is because I think that he can relate to a lot of things that middle-class families deal with, including issues like divorce and things like that. It was really good to hear him talk about that and open up like that. But that wasn't the only point that he opened up in the interview. He also talked about his daughter, Valentina, who's on the autism spectrum. This is a really powerful clip, and I think this is the biggest takeaway for me from this podcast interview, is when he talked about his family life and not Pierre Poilievre as leader of the opposition, not Pierre Poilievre who wants to be the Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, dad.
The other thing that I actually was really keen to talk about, and I've just realised, is
Sure.
Is this.
Oh, that's little Valentina there. She loves to be on Daddy's shoulders.
How old is Valentina?
Valentina is 7 years old.
7 years old. And she's nonverbal?
She's nonverbal, yes.
What does nonverbal mean?
She is autistic. She's on the spectrum. So the biggest difference between Valentina and other children is the ability to communicate verbally. So we're working very hard on that. She's making some encouraging progress. But she does have some challenges in that area. She's very acrobatic and rambunctious. She loves to climb, swing, bounce, jump, and she is extremely affectionate. And one of the superpowers she has is that whatever she does 100%. She's also 100% authentic. So, and that's not the case once kids get old enough to manipulate to get what they want. They can put on acts and artifices. She doesn't do that. She's the real deal all the time. You know exactly how she feels because she indicates it. And she's very blessed to have a little brother, Cruz, who adores her and treats her better than anyone else in the world.
I often hear parents talk about their concerns with, someone like Valentina growing up in the world as nonverbal. You're not going to be here forever to protect her. And, I was saying to you before, my brother has 3 kids under the age of, 7 years old now. And I've noticed just how much he thinks about how they're going to be when he's not here. How does that relate to Valentina being nonverbal and how you think about the future?
Well, a lot of things. Like one, we obviously have to build up a nest egg for her so that if she can't earn income, she will have the resources for a great life after we're gone. And second, we're really hoping that we forge a very permanent and deep bond between her and her brother Cruz, because he will be there. And one of the things he says again and again is, my job is to protect Valentina from bad guys. So this is a good attitude, especially that they are actually in the same class, even though she's older. She is in his class at school. And so he's daddy's eyes to protect our little princess. But I think when he's older, I believe, based on his nature, that he's going to be there for her. And we are building a plan towards that.
My job is to protect Valentina from bad guys.
That's right. It's a great instinct.
How has it changed your politics?
It's reinforced my sense of compassion for people who can't provide for themselves. And, I've talked a lot about how government should be limited. I do think there's a very real role for government to help people who genuinely cannot provide for themselves, people who suffer with disabilities being probably the best example. And it has reinforced to me that we have to also have policies that recognize the inherent worth of every individual. Too often, governments have seen people with disabilities as just someone they have to care for, but not someone who can contribute. And I believe that everybody has something to contribute, and that we should try to unlock that in every human being. We don't know exactly what Valentina will do, but I believe she will do some kind of a job at some point in the future. And I'm very passionate about policies that enable people with disabilities to have work opportunities, even if it's just very limited, to design programs so that when they have for example, cash or medication support, it doesn't get robbed from them just because they get a job. So it has focused my mind a lot on people. It gives you a sense of compassion, because when you see somebody who might be different, like I see my daughter in that person. I see my daughter, often my wife is very good at this. She'll see someone who might be acting differently in a crowd, and other people are looking at that person, and she'll grab my hand, she'll say, I think he's autistic. And then she will often go and talk to that boy and make him feel loved. So compassion is about feeling what the other person feels, and you have a greater ability to do that when there's a loved one close to you who has the experience.
Can you believe that the mainstream media, over the last year and a bit, including heavily during last year's federal election, tried to make him out to sound like a monster? They tried to make him the biggest villain in the world. That same guy that you just talked about, or that you just heard talk about having compassion for people that are different. The same guy you just heard say we need to do more for people with disabilities and explain how he gets what people with disabilities are going through. The media tried to convince people that he was a monster who was hell-bent on destroying this country. That's what they tried to tell you for the last year. He's nothing like that. Hopefully you got something good out of hearing that particular clip, because I think that's the one that tells most people everything they need to know. We already know he's a smart guy. We already know he's got a policy, a set of policies and a plan to try and turn things around from Canada. And that proves he is not just human, he's a good person. I thought that was excellent. Anyway, friends, like I said, I wanted to give you a curated collection of just the main stuff from Pierre Poilievre's interview on the Diary of a CEO podcast. The whole thing is still available. If you want to watch the whole interview, I recommend it. I thought it was one of Pierre Poilievre's best and most revealing interviews. I was just giving you the top line stuff today. Before I go, President Trump is going to speak today. A lot of people forwarded me his social media posts from this weekend. This is the post where he said he was using some profanity and he was threatening Iran, and it was wildly inappropriate. If you're wondering, Scott, what did you think of the tweet from Donald Trump? I don't think that's how presidents should talk, personally. I thought it was outrageous what he said. Having said that, we've got to deal with this Iranian regime, and we've got to hurry up and get the Strait of Hormuz reopened because these gas prices are not sustainable. We got to do something. But what Trump put out on the weekend, if you're one of the people who asked, that's what I think. I thought it was wildly inappropriate. Over the weekend, it was floated out there, and I think intentionally, by a Liberal member of Parliament, that there are 10 conservatives, up to 10 conservatives, that may be ready to cross the floor to the Liberals. I mean, if that's the narrative that the media wants out there, fine, I guess. Maybe it's a trial balloon. But let me put it to you this way. If there were nobody willing to cross the floor, do you think the Liberals would come out and say, there's nobody that wants to cross the floor? If they want 5 people to cross the floor, they want 5 more to give themselves a cushion after the by-elections. Say you've got 10. This is a strategy. It's meant to create a divide in the Conservative caucus. Not for a second do I believe there are 10 more Conservatives ready to cross the floor to the Liberals. Not when you see the way the numbers are going right now, and they are swinging blue, my friends. That's the way things are going. There's not 10 Conservatives ready to cross the floor. I'm not surprised the Liberals are putting that out there, because right now their best hope at hanging on to power is with people crossing the floor. They do not want to do an election. If they don't get an election in right now, they're not going to want to do one in the fall. Put it that way. The other narrative out there is, it's a new poll that came out over the weekend that said a lot of Canadians are interested in exploring the possibility of Canada joining the European Union. Get out of here. That's a joke. Anybody who seriously thinks Canada should join the European Union isn't a serious person, or they don't understand the situation that Canada is in right now. Number one, I thought we all agreed over the last year, we're going to protect Canada's sovereignty. We're going to stay a sovereign nation, never the 51st state. Then why would we want to be the 27th in the European Union? Why would we do that? There's an entire ocean between us and Europe, 2 of them, technically. Why would we want to be part of Europe? Why would we want Europe making decisions over what happens here in Canada? Because there's that many people that don't like Donald Trump? Seriously? Listen, this was an online poll, and it was put out there not to inform you. It was put out there to start preparing you. If Mark Carney decides, you know what, we're going to make Canada join the European Union, he wants to normalize it. He wants to get it on your radar so it's not a shock right away. In reality, it was 4,000 people that took an online poll. It's not scientific, and nor do I believe it. And by the way, if it was a realistic possibility and people had to vote, there's not a chance 58% of Canadians would be interested in exploring it. Europe has absolutely nothing to offer Canada right now. Nothing. Nothing that we need to solve the problems that we have in Canada is coming from Europe. It's a preposterous suggestion, and I have no idea what the actual strategy was in putting that out there, but it's out there for a reason, friends, and we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Tomorrow, I'll do a full-length episode based on whatever comes out of today. I know that the Artemis II mission is going to be one of the big stories from today. I know that Donald Trump speaking today is probably going to create headlines. He usually does. And whatever else I can get together for you for tomorrow. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Then you'll get new episodes as soon as they are available. I will catch you right back here in less than 24 hours. And right now, the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth to take us out. Here is Hey Now. Have a great day.
Oh, yeah.